Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to show you how I used this Oreo mold, how I made the little fondant accents, and how I painted my little tropical Oreos. First, you have to make sure that your chocolate is melted. I am using Wilton candy melt for the yellow chocolate and Ghirardelli chocolate for the white Oreos. Now, after I started doing these Oreos, I did find that maybe I should have used piping bags or a little piping bottle to have more control of my chocolate. They seem to be easier to use, but I did go ahead and use these little trays. If you do have piping bottles or piping bags, I suggest that you do melt your chocolate in there because, again, you do have more control of your chocolate, especially when you need to fill small spaces. Also remember, when filling your cavity of the mold, only fill up to about 1/3 of the way, because after we give it a little bit of a shake and the chocolate evens out, we will push our Oreo into the mold and you don't want any chocolate overflowing. After I went ahead and placed every single Oreo in all of the cavities, I do have to go back and fill the remaining surface with a little bit of chocolate, and this is where your piping bag or your piping bottle comes in handy because the space that is left is very small. If you do overflow, you can certainly take off any excess with a little spatula, so don't worry about making a mess. Once I went ahead and covered every single one of my Oreos, I did place the completed tray into the refrigerator for about 5 minutes just to make sure that my chocolate was set. Once your chocolate sets, it's very easy to take out your Oreos. Just take out the mold from the refrigerator, unmold it a little bit, flip it over, and your Oreos should pop right out. Since I want my yellow Oreos to look a little bit like pineapples, well, a lot like pineapples, I did go ahead and make this little leaf mold that is listed on my Etsy shop. And here I'm going to go ahead and attach it with a little bit of melted chocolate by simply placing a little dab on the back and placing it right on top of the Oreo. To paint the details, I will be using PoppyPaint, and for the little leaves, I will be using green. For this part, you only need a little palette, and if you don't have a palette, you can use a little paper plate or a plastic plate and a small brush. For the little lines, I will be using brown from PoppyPaint and a little bit of white just to soften the brown a little bit. And I will be using a small brush and making lines crisscrossing each other. For the lines, I did decide to make them a little bit thicker, so just keep playing with the design until you like it. And then I also added little tiny arrows in between the diamonds to give it more the look of a pineapple. For my flamingo Oreo, I will be using this mold, and what I find works best for me is taking little pieces of fondant and rolling them into small sausages and using my fingers to insert them into the cavities of the mold. At least that's what I find the easiest for me and the easiest when unmolding my mold. For this next part, I am using the black poppy paint and a medium-sized brush. Now, you'll also notice that my lines aren't perfect, and that's totally fine with me. If you want perfect lines, then you can certainly go ahead and do that. But for this project, I just wanted to see how it would look with the least amount of direction and instruction, and I just went with this look, and I think it looks great. For the parts where you need to add color, don't feel like you have to go out and buy new tools. If you have pink fondant and green fondant, use that instead. For this part, I really was just being lazy and I wanted to try new techniques. So whatever makes my life easier, that's what I like to use. So I usually just do white fondant and paint over it because I find it a lot more fun than getting little tiny pieces of green fondant and pink fondant, etc. But it's really up to your preference. I really hope that I was able to provide you with a little bit of tips and tricks when making chocolate Oreos. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget that if you do have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!